In our reading from Luke today, Jesus gives us some party advice. Don't take the best seat because you might be turned out of it for someone more important than you. Lest we forget, Jesus is himself at a dinner party, and we're told that everyone is watching him very closely. If you've been reading along in Luke, you know that Jesus has been on a bit of a tear recently. He's been prophesying, he's been calling people hypocrites, he's been teaching about who will be saved. Everyone is wondering if tonight he'll do anything controversial. Will he say something else shocking? Will they get to be the first to hear? Or maybe tonight they will witness a miracle. Maybe someone will be raised from the dead. Someone will be healed. Maybe someone will have a demon cast out of them. Or maybe Jesus will just chew with his mouth open, and that will be the big news to share. But if people were looking for a little bit of drama that night, they were not disappointed. Jesus delivers. At first, it seems pretty tame. Some party advice. Don't take the best seat. When I first read this passage, I thought there wasn't really much to say about that. It just seems like Jesus acting like your mom on your way out of the door to go out. Don't forget, bring a hostess gift. Eat whatever your host provides. If you have food restrictions, tell them before the time or just deal with it. Don't order ribs on a date. But when we read the context of this party, things get a little more interesting. We're told that Jesus is dining with the Pharisees. Now, we often simply think of the Pharisees as the baddies. They're the hypocrites. And that's all we really think about. But the Pharisees were the Jewish group who sought to help the Jewish people actually practice and live out their faith in an accessible way. They were popular with the people, and for good reason. They served the average Joe, and they sought to preserve their Jewish heritage in a time when outside forces were ruling them. There were different interpretations at this time of what Jewish life was supposed to look like. And they're represented by 4 different groups, and you might have heard some of these names before. So we have the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Essenes, and the Zealots. And these last 3 groups were far more extreme or more fringe. The Sadducees were the elite and wealthy. The Essenes were very strict and ascetic. And the Zealots wanted to overthrow the government by force. The Pharisees, in contrast, were pretty mainstream. They had political and social power. In a way, they were like the mainline church in its heyday. So when Jesus is at this dinner party, he's not eating with just his enemies. He's eating with people that he has a lot in common with. And when we think of how Jesus addresses the Pharisees, it's a lot more, I think, like how somebody with great potential on the soccer team, how the coach treats them. They're a really good player and they want to see them actually perform. Or the teacher with a student who they know isn't really doing what they are capable of. This is how Jesus is addressing the Pharisees. And when we hear that frustration that he has with them, when he calls them hypocrites even, he's telling them, you're not living up to what I know you're capable of. So, with all of that in mind, when Jesus says, don't take the best seat, he's not innocently sharing some party advice. He's commenting on something that has been happening all night right in front of him. The Pharisees have spent this whole party jockeying for power, trying to get the best spot, trying to get the best seat, trying to make sure that they can move up. And Jesus tells them quite pointedly that they should take the humble seat instead and wait to be lifted to a better spot. So, in terms of drama, not that exciting, but a little more exciting than just some random party advice. But then Jesus adds that they got the guest list wrong as well. Rather than thank his host for the nice meal, eat what was provided, bring a tasteful hostess gift, Jesus tells them this is not how you throw a party. He says, don't invite those who can pay you back. Invite the poor, the lame, the crippled, the blind. It's not that you won't get anything out of it, Jesus adds, it's just that you'll be dead when it happens, and then not dead because the resurrection. So you're gonna have to wait a long time for a return on this investment. All of this is, basic, good Christian advice. We've heard it before. Take care of the poor. Invest in those who can't return the favor. And again, I will admit that when I read this, it felt a little too obvious to write a whole sermon about it. What is there really to say besides just do it? But the uncomfortable reality is that we've all heard this probably a few times and don't do it. We let it sail past us, we kind of dismiss it. It feels too familiar to pay attention. So, what might get in the way of us carrying out this command? Like I said, it's not that we don't understand what Jesus is saying. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty straightforward. One of the things that gets in the way is that we want to build up our social capital, our financial capital. We want to advance ourselves. We want to use other people to do that. But Jesus is saying in our passage today that our capital is to be used for others. What we have, we use to provide for others and not to advance ourselves. What if Christians actually practice this command, this very simple command? What if we actually put an effort into caring for those who can't play the tit-for-tat game with us? Those who can't advance our careers or help us network? Or even more basically, what if we talk to the person at the party who can't provide much social capital, who might be a little tiring to talk to? What if this was a church where no matter who you were, when you showed up on a Sunday, somebody would talk to you at coffee hour? Not just the people who are supposed to do it, the ushers, but everybody. Not just the saints that we admire from afar as we talk to our friends. And what if we did that joyfully and humbly, without any hint of resentment or impatience or martyrdom? This is, I admit, the sticking point sometimes for me. I can do this. I can sequester myself in the corner with a person that I might not actually want to be talking to, but I want you to notice. I want to be applauded for it. I want to, in the end, earn the social capital in this backdoor way. Look at her. She's always so kind, even to the person none of us want to talk to. But that's not what Jesus is asking. And actually, he's not asking, he's commanding. He's telling the Pharisees, you guys are good with people. You already are the ones with power. People listen to you. People follow you. You live comfortably. Rather than trying to climb the ladder any further, whether it's by this backdoor route or a more obvious one, rather than trying to score the next biggest and better invitation, use what you have to offer hospitality to those who do not have much. Again, this is a simple command, but it is hard for us to pull it off. And that's the challenge I want to leave us with, to practice hospitality that comes from our contentment with what God has given us. Because the reality is, what gets in the way of us pulling this off is not just that we want to build up our capital, it's that we're so scared of losing what we have. We're afraid to take the risk. We're afraid to risk sliding down the ladder, whether it's the social or financial or corporate, whatever ladder you have in your mind. These are the types of things that keep us up at night. It makes us go home and analyze how the day went, grading ourselves and our interactions. I saw a New Yorker cartoon once that had somebody on the subway, which is a form of public transport that exists in other places, but sadly not as much in Houston. So they're on the subway, and it says all the different stops above them. And the first stop is the first stop on their way home from the party. And the person is thinking, that was fun. I enjoyed myself. I had a good time at that party. And the second stop, they think, oh, but I remember I said that one weird thing. And then the third stop is, I really shouldn't have said that. The fourth stop is, I should never go out again. And the fifth stop is, nobody likes me. And whether or not you take public transport, you have seen this in your own life, I'm sure. We go home at the end of the workday and we think, I can't believe I said that to my boss. Am I still gonna have a job? Am I still going to have friends? Am I going to be penniless and friendless by the end of the week? And we kind of go into these crazy spirals. And maybe it's just me, but I heard during coffee hour 2 other people admit to this already. So I know that there's at least 3 of us in the building. We think that all of this, the ability to pull off being loved, being important, being comfortable, that it's all up to us. And that if we don't get it right, we're going to end up alone and on the streets. And there are people that are in that place already. And what Jesus is asking us to do is to meet them there, to bring them into community, to bring them to the table. We want to be loved. We want to feel important, to matter. And we get into this spiral fearing that if we don't get it right, no one else is going to do it for us. There's a part of us that is so afraid to rely on anyone else. And underneath all of Jesus's criticisms is this promise that we actually can rely on him. As we heard in our Hebrews reading today, the Lord will not leave us in the corner at the party. I will never leave you or forsake you, we read there. And the reason that we know that Jesus will never leave us or forsake us is that he already risked everything for us. One of the things I love about Jesus is whenever he gives us these hard commands, it's never something that he hasn't done himself. He always practices what he preaches. Jesus left behind his comfortable seat to come down to earth to dwell among us as one of us. Jesus lived a life as a poor carpenter, not networking, but sometimes burning bridges by saying things that people didn't want to hear. He said the hard things that put other people first, the poor and the vulnerable. And Jesus ultimately died on the cross and was raised again. He did all of this for us, offering us not just a place at the table, but his very life. All of this, I admit, might seem like poor consolation when you are feeling anxious about what is going to happen next, when you are feeling like you have to pull it off, you have to provide for yourself or for your family, that it's all on you. But Jesus promises that he will be with you, and he is the only one that can actually see that promise through. So we can say with confidence, "The Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What can anyone do to me?" Amen.